more of us are feeling the call to grow, to awaken, to the feeling that there is more to life than just passively observing it. And we are finding each other. We are entangled in this planetary awakening. We were born from the same stardust. Together, we become a frequency so powerful that it creates a consciousness awakening across the planet. By stopping resistance and starting recognition, when you stop resisting and stop seeing obstacles as failure, but instead as proof of transformation, you begin aligning with your higher purpose. But before your life can change, your brain needs to change the predictable patterns that shape your emotions, reactions, and behaviors. Because the brain is constantly repeating familiar signals based on previous experiences. And you have followed those patterns for so long that you started believing they were you, your habits, your emotions, your reactions. When in reality, it is simply your brain reinforcing the same probabilities, the same emotional reality, over and over again. Your personality is only a trained neurological program running automatically in the background. You think the same thoughts because your brain has practiced them before. You feel the same emotions because you have felt them before. And you react the same way because your nervous system learned to respond that way. And without awareness, it keeps guiding your decisions and shaping what feels possible for you. And without you changing the way your brain interprets reality, your reality will continue repeating itself. And the brain depends on familiarity, because familiarity feels safe, while expansion does not. But then, when your old patterns begin dissolving, something remarkable starts to happen. Your brain actually begins to rewiring itself. Neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity. The brain actually has the ability to restructure itself by weakening old neural pathways and forming new ones. For most of your life, that neuroplasticity reinforced the same patterns based on past experiences. Every repeated reaction strengthened the pathway. Every repeated thought deepened the emotional conditioning. And over time, it became your baseline. Your brain stopped questioning whether the thought was true or useful. It simply became familiar, and eventually, you simply became who you thought you were. But when awareness notices the pattern automatically begins weakening, because by observing your thoughts, instead of immediately identifying with them, you create space between yourself and the program. You begin asking, why does this thought appear? Is it even true? And when emotions rise, instead of automatically reacting, you gain the ability to choose differently. That is where real change begins. For many people, the beginning feels subtle. You suddenly pause before reacting. Things that once triggered you stop creating the same emotional response. But for me, the observer phase was life-changing. For most of my life, I reacted through fear, anxiety, and the belief that life simply was not meant for me. But the first time I observed my thoughts, like trains passing by, I realized something. The thoughts I'm having are not who I am. It is my brain replaying old emotional patterns on fast-forward repeat. And through awareness, I realized I had a choice. That was the beginning. And even now, it continues evolving. The voice in my head speaks a completely different language than before. These are signs that your brain is reorganizing itself, that your nervous system begins interpreting reality differently. And this is where the observer effect becomes important. In quantum consciousness theory, they often talk about the observer influencing probabilities, the idea that reality exists as potential until observation gives it structure. And whether you interpret that spiritually or psychologically, the principle remains powerful. The way you observe reality changes the way you experience it. Because when you stop automatically reacting to old emotional patterns, you also stop reinforcing the same reality. Before reality changes externally, it first changes internally. And in the silence, your brain needs time to rewire itself, to build the neurological pathways capable of holding your new reality. The old identity you've clinged onto for so long begins dissolving. At the same time, the new one has not fully stabilized yet. Your perceptions change, your emotions change, and the way you react changes. And when this happens consistently, your perspective on life no longer feels the same. The mind becomes quieter just because the brain stops replaying the past on autopilot, and your nervous system stops interpreting every signal in your environment as danger. And because of that, your probability field begins widening. Evolution is not comfort. Sometimes the old identity dissolves faster than the new one stabilizes, and that creates the feeling of standing between two worlds while still existing in the same reality. Your environment begins losing its emotional structure, and your brain starts asking, why don't I react the same way anymore? Why does everything suddenly feel different? But this is not failure. This is recalibration. The old pathways are weakening. And there is one thing I need you to acknowledge. You started this yourself. Your consciousness expansion began the moment you desired something beyond unconscious repetition, the moment you realized there had to be something more. Congratulations. This is your expansion. If your soul recognizes this, follow. Not only for more conscious content, but to reconnect with the others who are awakening beside you, your star family, your soul tribe, the people who were always meant to find you. Let us walk this path together, in alignment, in trust, in love. And remember, the moment you began questioning unconscious reality, your awakening already started.